Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship here with another Velocity Banking video. Did you know we have over 1,100 videos on this channel? It's true, over 1,100 videos. And eventually the goal of this channel is to get to 10,000. Okay. Why 10,000 is thinking of fulfilling the Bruce Lee quote, which is I don't fear the man who does 10,000 kicks once. I fear the man who does one kick 10,000 times. And that's what I'm gonna do with velocity banking. And the biggest problem that I have is I just take for granted that everybody else knows what I know, is because literally when you're making a video over and over again, you're kind of just brainwashing yourself, really. Like, oh, this is so obvious because I've just done this 1,000 times. And then what's funny is that I assume that because, I'm quote the I guess guru, if you want to say that. I just assume people will come to me for help, but a lot of people don't. It's really fascinating. And I remember one time I actually showed this to a nurse, right? I showed the strategy to a nurse, and the nurse makes, I think, about 175,000 a year if I recall correctly. And she's at the end of her working career, near the end, had 2 homes, but had to sell one of them because they couldn't make the payments work, right? And she bought the homes when they were cheap, okay? Bought it in, like, 2010, 2015, so that was when real estate in Georgia was really, really cheap, and she had to sell her house because they couldn't make the payments work. And then I remember I showed her the strategy, and, I remember the look she had in her eyes because she had her Zoom cam on, right? She had her Zoom cam on, and, I dubbed it the velocity banking poker face because she clearly understood what was going on, right? Because I was like, "How many years do you pay off house number 1?" I think it was like 5 or 4. "Oh, how many years do you pay off house number 2?" "In 3 years, house number 3 too." And then it's like, "Oh, 10 years, you have 3 homes paid off." And, I realized, "Whoa." I think so many people are living the poker face life where, um a lot of times it's like they're shocked, right? And I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm just saying, like, the reason why I was so into learning this, even though I had no interest in like real estate or finance, is because I used to make over 20,000 a year. I was like ashamed. I was like doing Uber driving, working fast food. I was like, what am I doing with my life? Mom and dad were probably right that I'm an idiot. Um, yeah, they were probably right, and then later on, I did stuff that I would have never imagined, which is, pay off a mortgage in 2 years and 9 months, right? So that's kinda like my line that I say that to flex, which I'm pretty sure most people are sick of. I've been seeing some unsubscribes lately. Well, not too many, but the overall, net increase of subscribers has kind of been on the downturn. But actually, it's because the YouTube algorithm has changed too. They made a big update, and everybody on the board has been saying that they've been losing or not getting that many views. But I don't do this for the views because I do this for the people who want to learn, right? But sometimes the hardest people to teach are the people around you. And I just remembered the look she had on her face, where it's just like, because she had to sell off her property when I showed her, oh, 3 paid off property in 10 years, you know, like, that's insane. That's insane, you know what I mean? But then, yeah, I've done this so many times where I just take it for granted that, everybody else, no, they've seen my videos, or I've done this so many times, I don't need to teach this anymore. And then I just kinda realized that that's actually not true. But the reason why I don't know this is because we live in a poker face society where people are afraid to admit that they're struggling. I think the only difference between me and most people is that when I was struggling, I just admitted it. It's like, please help me, I need help. And then just kind of seeing that people attack you when you need help. It's like, and I'm not making fun of homeless people. It's like when you're homeless and then you're asking the homeless person right next to you, like, how do we get out of this? And then that homeless person is attacking you for being homeless. I know, crazy world that we live in, right? But that's why, like, if people attack me, I'm like, "All right, well, where," if you're gonna say that I'm no good, well, where were you when I needed your help? Oh, yeah, you wouldn't help me because you look down upon me, right? I know that most people are bad people, right? But, again, I take it for granted that most people know what I know because they just make it seem like, "Oh, I showed them this, paid off multiple homes in several years and no emotion." So it's like, well, You must have already known this. Or maybe you got a poker face, right? But a lot of people do have that poker face. All right, enough rambling. So let's get to it. Velocity banking. So, what is it? It's a debt payoff strategy where you throw all of your money into debt using something called a line of credit. So, here we're going to do the same budget as yesterday, but I'm going to do something a little bit different at the end. Okay. So here we have the average American way of doing banking, and I call it Bruce Banner because ChatGPT said that the average American way of banking is Bruce Banner, and velocity banking is like being the Hulk. Now, why is that? Is because we're going to turn $1 into like 4,000 something dollars without increasing our income. Okay. And so what does the average American do? Well, basically they have their checking account come in and then they pay their bills and they put the leftover in savings. Okay. But with velocity banking, with the same income and the same expenses, okay, uh, we're gonna put all of our income into something called the line of credit, and we're not gonna save money. See, this is going from 1 to 0 is scary for most people because they'll be like, $1 in savings is way better than zero in savings, right? People will think that because we've been trained to save money and make our checking account as our main operating account. So if you take a look at my checking account, right? You take a look at my checking account, money comes in and then money goes out. So the money is treated like a hot potato, and we don't save money, right? People will freak out about this, okay? But we're having a mindset shift, and so instead of saving money, we're going to increase something called our cash flow, okay? And we're going to use something called a line of credit to help us do that. And so, what is a line of credit? It's basically a financial tool where you can borrow money, pay it back, and then use it. Over and over again. That's what a line of credit is. And so, if you take a look at my line of credit, this is a $373,500 home equity line of credit, right? 373,500. So what does that mean? It means I click a button, bank's website, bam, they dump up to $373,500 into my checking account, right? They literally dump that into my checking account. And so they're going to charge me 8.5% interest rate, okay, 8.5%, and but I can use that to for ultimate flexibility and borrow money whenever I want and pay it back. Right? That's the whole point of the line of credit. And so I have up to, if you take a look here, $739,000 in lines of credit. $739,000. And that literally makes me the top 0.01% in credit line holders, right? I don't know if that's the right word, right? Credity, I don't know. But people in I think in this country as an individual, top 0.01%, $739,000. Okay. And so a lot of people kind of, for whatever reason, act like I don't know what I'm talking about. And I guess maybe I don't, but if that's true, then I'm a person who doesn't know what I'm talking about. $739,000 in lines of credit. Okay. And so how do we get these lines of credit, including credit cards? Because the credit card's a line of credit, you swipe, pay back, and use it over and over again. Is we have to know the secret of the banks. What's the secret is that banks don't lend money to people who need it. Okay. And the biggest issue that most people have is they're trying to get money when they need it. Okay. And so, simply said, the way that I got all these lines of credit is I just went to a bank when I didn't need the money. See how easy that was? I went to a bank when I did not need money because I knew the secret of the banks, which is they don't lend money to people who need it. Now, if you know how debt works, right? Banks avoid low income people like the plague because there's credit, which is a measure of you paying your bills on time and what's the likelihood you're going to pay your bills on time. And then there's income, which isn't really tracked in your credit score, right? That's why in every credit application, they ask you for your income. Like, what's your income, right? And so what they're looking for is a low risk borrower. And then once upon a time, that low risk borrower didn't have debt, okay? But then enticed by, mailers, offers, internet ads, low payments over time. You can get a credit card, low payments over time, 0% transfer balance, right? You get too many low payments over time, eventually they'll suck up your cash flow. Okay. And now you have $1 savings. Now, what if we had a line of credit where we use as our main operating account? And now here's the thing. If you have $1 left over, will the bank lend you a line of credit? And the answer is probably not, because at this point in your life, you need money, and banks don't want to deal with people who need money, right? Remember that one time your friend asked you, "Hey, I really need some money. Can I borrow it?" And then they lent them the money, and then they didn't pay you back. The bank already knows that before it even happens. It's like a clairvoyant institution. So what they do is they do everything in their power to avoid people who need money. We have to remember that. And so why do I talk about free and clear line of credit? Is because if you known the strategy before you could even borrow money, you'd never even be here. But this line of credit would be your savior. And if this were a real life, like real life scenario, what would usually happen is that people treat their line of credit as another maxed out credit card. And we actually have a live stream of that. 22 debts live stream. $4 left over, 99 cents only for YouTube channel members. Click the whatever join button below to see that for 99 cents a month, okay? I'm really cheap, okay? So in that aspect, although I do have other higher costing programs that I sell for a commission. But want to show that if we had a free and clear line of credit, then man, this could easily be solved. But most people, because they don't want to do things in the right order, they just wait till the last moment and then wonder why they won't get the credit that they need. But getting credit is really easy when you don't need money. It's like when you drive a car and then you crash it and you don't have a car insurance. How easy is it to get a car insurance? It is so hard to get car insurance at that point. But it's really easy to get car insurance before you start to drive, right? So get it then. Get the line of credit before you need it. That's how the bank sees you. All right. Well, so let's go ahead and do this. So what we're going to do is using something called the cash flow index. So what is it? It's basically a formula where you take the balance of the debt and divide by the payment, and then it gives you this arbitrary number, which you could kind of think of as a ranking system, right? Ranking system. And so the lower the number, that essentially means you get more bang for your buck paying off the debt. That's literally what it means, right? And so, would you pay someone $270,000 to get $1,100 back in your cash flow, or 35 grand to get $1,100 back in your cash flow? I'm going to pay the 35 grand because that's more bang for your buck. I'm not going to just hand over a $270,000 check just to get $1,100 a month back in my cash flow, right? I'm not going to do that. So that's what we're going to do. And then it's not a coincidence that these high interest rate credit cards have a low cash flow index, right? There is some correlation with the interest rate and the type of debt that you have. Okay. So what we're gonna do is eliminate all these. So 5, 8, 15, 27, 37, 35. Okay. And how much credit card debt is that? That's about 127,000. So 127,000, it's all paid off, 127,000. And so once we've done that, well, guess what happens with these credit cards, right? These credit cards get paid off and then blam. This is like the first shocker, right? Like, how do we turn $1 into $4,193.50? Okay. $4,193.50. And you see how the income is the same. Do we create more income? So that's what I mean by this Bruce Banner way of doing banking. In fact, if you just ask the average American, hey, you make good money, right? Because $6,000 a month is like 100,000 a year. So you make 7,850. You make good money, and you only have $1 of savings left over. Okay, because you got all this debt, 7 credit cards, an auto loan, a mortgage, right? Do you need to make more money, get out of this hole? And everybody will say yes, right? Because they don't understand that you don't have to do the average American way of banking, which is to pay all your bills through your checking account and save money, right? We're going to save this little puny $1. No, no, no. What we're going to do is we're going to put our entire paycheck into the line of credit, take our expenses out, and then rinse and repeat over and over again, right? So let's go ahead and do that. And then what we're gonna do is take the balance, which is the previous month's balance plus the previous month's interest, minus the cash flow, which is the 4193.5, right? And then you see that every single month the balance will go down by that much. Now, obviously, we have interest to take into account, right? And so we just take the average daily balance, multiply by the interest rate, and then we divide by 12. And let's go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to copy and paste, and then wham, bam, 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 alakazam. And then we see that it gets paid off in 34 months, right? So remember where we started, which is panic attack panic attack land, $1 left over in savings, and now we're doing okay here. Okay. We just switched the flow of the money, right? See, in day one, if we had a line of credit available, which we're probably not going to get, remember, it's like getting car insurance after you crash the car without any car insurance. Um, we would be fine. We would be fine. But we weren't because we were doing things the average American way, right? And give it all to the bank. And so what we're going to do is write the milestones. So next milestone here is 34 months. So 34 months. And then that's going to be 127K. 127K. And then now we did that. And then now we have the auto loan and the mortgage. So after 34 months, right? 34 months, we paid it all off. And how much is it? We have this loan calculator here to help us determine what the balance of the loan is at that point. So we're going to do 10 grand for the auto loan, and we just move it into the line of credit. Why? Because of that low cash flow index 25, meaning we get a bang for our buck for moving into the line of credit. And so what we do is we go to here, this is 0, right? And then what's our cash flow now, which is $4,611.91. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. So we're going to add plus 10461.73, and then we're going to subtract 4611.91. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to now mark that we paid off our auto loan at 36 months. So it's now a new milestone, 36 months, 36 months. Okay. And this will be 127 plus 23, which is 150K. 150K. And then, I think this is the part where I showed the nurse, like, hey, after you paid off all your debt, she did have a rental house, and then she had to sell one of her houses because she couldn't make the payments work. So we can decide, okay, are we going to pay off our mortgage or get a rental property, right? And so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to just show you how to buy real estate, or the best way to buy real estate is that you need to buy it at a discount, right? So the for sure way that you make money in real estate is you buy it at a discount. If you buy it at market value, that's kind of hard to make money, okay? Not going to lie, but it is possible. It is possible, but the best way to make money, in my opinion, is to buy it at a discount. So you see 318,000, you get a $100,000 discount. You got to find one of those houses, and usually, like, you find a distressed owner, right? And not all distress is like an ugly house, because people sometimes have, problems, death in the family or whatever. It happens, right? And they have to sell the house. Maybe long lost relative, they inherited the house and it's just not been taken care of. And people will trade equity for a peace of mind, right? You just got to send a bunch of letters, and then once you or I'm sorry, meet the right seller, bam, $100,000 discount. And I think there's like a rule that I read somewhere, for if you have a $300,000 house, buy it for 200, $200,000 house, buy it for 100, and then $100,000 house, buy it for 10, right? So you gotta buy it at a discount. Buy it at a discount, right? And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna buy a $300,000 house at a $200,000 or $100,000 discount, and we can buy it with the line of credit. Maybe we get a huger line of credit here. And so this is what we're going to do. We'll say that, oh, we bought it with a 8%, I don't know, $250,000 line of credit, and then all in. Okay. Actually, let me do this. Let me restart this. We bought, let me think about this. Let me go here. Okay. So after 3 years of paying off all of our credit card debt and our auto loans, then that's when we're going to start our real estate investing journey. Now, would I put this entire thing in a line of credit? Probably not. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I don't think I would put it in a line of credit. I probably still get a loan because there's, you can use your line of credit as a backup. But let's just assume that we got a huge line of credit and we've increased our limit. Maybe refinance to 250 this time, and then all in. Okay, because we got to add discount. We got it for $200,000. Okay, 200,000. Oopsie, not 20,000, 200,000. Now, when we get it for $200,000 and let's say we fix it up, we made it beautiful and we got one of these sweet, sweet rental checks right here, 14 grand, or we made it to an Airbnb, right? 5 grand a month Airbnb, 4 grand, and this is a single family home. But yeah, we get one of these rental checks, right? This is actually a tenant prepaying 6 months. And so whenever I see this kind of check, I'm kind of numb. I'm going to be honest. um, but let's say the tenant gives us $22,000 check a month, or we could say 2,100. I mean, rent has been increasing as far as I'm aware. But let's say we add, we'll say 2,100 a month from our tenant for the house, right? And then our expenses for that home, we assume is about maybe I think 30%, that's like a good figure for the expenses. So for that rental house, the expenses will be 2,100 times 30%, right? That's a good estimate. So 2,100, or I could just do this, equals 2,100 plus 2,100 times 0.3, right? And so now our expenses have increased, okay? And so what we're going to do is take the tenant's income and our income and then pay down the debt that we used to buy that rental property. Remember, for that first rental property, we got $100,000 equity built in. Okay. Like it takes a little bit of work to find those houses. I'm not going to lie. It's not like super easy, but once you have the money, or I'm sorry, the deal, then everything else should fall into play, right? So now we have about $6,000 of cash flow with our income and the tenant's income, and let's see how long it takes to pay off that first house. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this right here, and then it's right. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this, and then this is gonna be 6081.91, and let's see how long it takes off to pay off. And again, this is a regular rental, right? So this isn't like no Airbnb. This is just a regular rental because we're assuming we're getting like 2,100 a month on our regular rental along with our other pay. And if we did like Airbnb, we get like 5 grand a month. Now, given all that's not profit, right? And now there's probably more startup costs with the Airbnb, but there's more cash flow in the Airbnb than with your regular rental. And plus, I've talked to a cleaner, and the cleaner says, "Oh, every time I go to a regular rental, long-term rental, the house is a disaster. But every time I go to a short-term rental, the house is pristine clean because they have to clean it frequently before every guest, right? So might want to think about that. Okay, so now we paid it off, the first house in about 73 months. 73 months. So house one, yeah. So which house is this? House number one paid off in time frame 73 months. And then we'll say the benefit, which is we'll say probably 330K of equity, right? Maybe some appreciation there, and then 2,100. So 70% of that 2,100 we could say is our cash flow, which is 1,470. So now you get 1,470 a month in cash flow, okay, in 73 months, right? And then, but if you had debt, you wouldn't even have cash flow. Crazy, right? And then we just repeat the same thing over and over again. Okay. So what you do is now you just kind of multiply this by 2. So what we're going to have is now 2 houses, find another house, buy it at a discount, get $100,000 of equity up front in the beginning. And then now you have 2 tenants. Okay. So you have 2 tenants, and now your cash flow is $7,551.91. And this is what I showed the nurse, and I just acted all cool and casual, and she just acted all cool and casual too. But I knew deep down inside she had that poker face, the velocity banking poker face. So what we're gonna do is do the same thing over and over again. So 200,000, we'll say all in, right? So if we got a good brand, great deal, 7,551.91, then why not, we don't have to go all in 200,000. There are people who pay 100,000 for houses. And so let me just see how long it takes to pay off that one. And so let me just kind of do this right here. So in 102 months, same thing, right? So house number 2, so 102 months, and then same thing, and another 330,000K equity, and then let's just go with house number 3, right? House number 3. So we're not gonna be too greedy. We're just small time landlords with 3 houses, right? So let's go ahead and do that, and then we just have to now multiply this by 3, right? So multiply this by 3, 3 tenants now, and then 3 houses that we have to pay for expenses right here. So then we multiply this one by 3, and then now what's our cash flow? It's about 9 grand per month. Okay. And let's go ahead and pay it off. Okay. And remember, we haven't paid off our personal mortgage yet, but we just kind of do the same formula. This is like so easy, right? So add 200,000 to 0.0000, and then we're going to subtract 9021.91. And then I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste. And I'm going to do this. And then we see that 126 months, house number 3 is paid off, right? I make it look so easy. Okay, how 126 months. Again, once we get to that 10,000 videos, this is going to be a reality, I think. All right. So now what's the total economic benefit is basically, almost $1 million of equity. And then we'll assume that we have 30 years of cash flow from the house. So times 3 times 12 times 30. No, so times 3, yeah, 30. Okay. So that means we get $1.58 million of cash flow in a lifetime from just those 3 houses, is as well as about $1 million of equity, right? So with just 3 houses, we became gajillionaires. Okay. And how much is 126 months? That's 10.5 years. So this is what I mean, like, 10 years, 3 houses paid off. Okay. And then now that we've done that, then we just go ahead and pay off our mortgage. So 126 months. This is our balance. And then I just got to type in the velocity banking calculator here. And so this is going to be 201,478.78. So 201,478.78. And then is this the right payment? Yeah, it is the right payment. And then now let me just kind of redo this. So what's our expenses? Expenses is $39.90, everything except for the loan we're trying to pay off. So 3,990. Our income is 14,150.24. 14,150.24. And then our chunk amount is just how much we're moving into the line of credit. And then and I'll just put this to 8 to what we had. And then we pay off our personal home in 1.8 years. Bam. Okay. So 1.8 years, this is 0. And then this is going to be 4 paid off houses. 4 paid off houses. And it's going to be 126. Divided by 12 plus 1.8. Right? So 12.3 years, and then we have 4 completely paid off houses, and now we're cajillionaires, right? So no more housing payment. So what's our cash flow now? So our cash flow is about 10 grand a month. Pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I just do this so quickly now. How we're at 30 minutes. Yeah. So in 30 minutes, I just kind of paid off 4 houses like it's nothing, right? Like it ain't no thing. It ain't nothing but a chicken wing. I think that's what they say, or that's what they used to say. All right. Well, that's it for today, folks. So I'm gonna kind of end off a little bit different. So if if you watch the end of this video, just let me know what's your greatest velocity banking insight. Might be from this video, might be from other videos. I mean, are you shocked that we paid off 4 houses in 12.3 years? Right? Most people don't pay off 1 in 30, okay? 4 in 12.3, right? And that's assuming that you have decent tenants. Gotta learn how to be a landlord, right? Gotta get those paying tenants with those nice sweet checks. Okay. All right. Well, that's it for today, folks. This is Crane Lanta Mentorship. Let me know what any insight, your greatest velocity banking insight in the comments below, and I'll see you on the next video.